All right, so Tabby is a very interesting product compared to the other products that we've sold here at CRS in the past. I'd like to call it a tablet-based product, but it's not necessarily only for tablets. It actually is a web-based system that is very interesting because internet is not required, and it doesn't only run on tablets, it runs on any device that has a web browser. So that gives us great flexibility. It allows us to use literally any hardware, any machine that has a web browser. We can use any browser, although with that said, usually Google Chrome is the browser that works the best, and that's because that's what the engineers used during development. And we can use any operating system. We can run on Android terminals, Windows terminals, Apple terminals. We can run on cell phones, tablets, all-in-ones, PCs, laptops, Kindle Fires. We can run on any of those things, which makes us fairly unique in the market. So if you take Tabby right out of the printer, basically on the interface card is this chip right here, which runs a web server. So basically what this does is this chip right here holds all the configuration data and all the sales data for your Tabby. A lot of people ask, well, what language is Tabby written in? So Tabby is written in JavaScript and HTML, which the reason I bring those up is because they're very modern and up-to-date programming languages, which makes it easy for them to make changes as time goes on. I'm also going to mention this SD card right here that's in the back, and the only reason I really bring it up is because everybody that receives a Tabby, the first thing that they want to do is pull that SD card out and take a look at it and figure out what they can do. So basically, as far as we're all concerned, that SD card is something you don't have to think about, you don't have to look at. Basically, what it is a fail-safe device. So let's just say that a terrible thing happens. Let's say the Tabby falls off the counter and is dropped on the floor and it smashes the card so it no longer works. What you can do with that SD card is you could send out a new Tabby to that site, and they could swap out the SD cards with put in the SD card that was from the Tabby that was already running at the site, and it would be back up and running exactly where they left off at the last Z report. Every day when you run your Z end of day, what Tabby will do is it will copy all the sales data and all the configuration data to that SD card as a fail-safe backup device. So other than that, you never have to take it out, you never have to look at it, you never have to do anything with it. So basically tell everybody don't touch it. All right, so our configuration options are basically unlimited, but I just thought I would throw a few of them here out onto the screen just so you can kind of get an idea. I mean, you can use 7-inch tablets if the main application for that Tabby is going to be mobility and things that they need to carry around, or if their menu is fairly small and they don't have a lot of items. The 10-inch iPad is what we're calling recommended. And the reason that we're calling it recommended is because the Apple iPad, they do a really good job of a lot of things. The brightness is always perfect. The touch is always spot on. The transition from screen to screen is always perfect. There's not a lot of extraneous buttons around the outside that you can press accidentally and accidentally turn it off or turn the volume way up. They're very simple to set up controls to not allow people to download things and things like that. And most importantly, let's say that tablet, they want to use a tablet or an iPad, but they don't really need it to be mobile. It's going to be in a stationary station. Most of the nice stands that are available on the market today are built specifically for the iPad. So those are the reasons that we call it recommended. If you have other tablets that you're using for other solutions and you feel comfortable with, by all means, that's what you should use. Another option are all-in-one terminals, either Windows or Android. The terminal that you see here is well, it could be a couple things. It could be the SPT 4740 or it could be our SAP 4800. One is a Windows terminal, one is an Android terminal, and just to put it in perspective on what the difference is, the SPT 4740 has a dealer price of $819, whereas the SAP 4800 Android terminal has a dealer price of $549. So you can see that there's a huge cost savings with the Android terminal because you don't have to buy a hard drive or an operating system. And then probably the thing that a lot of dealers are doing is they're going with the bring your own device model. So the way that that works is, let's say that you go meet with a customer, they decide that they want to use iPads. In most cases, you're probably better off telling them to go ahead and buy the iPads themselves. Number one, do we really want to support and service iPads? Probably not. What are you going to do if the person drops it or breaks it or so on and so forth? So it's something that's not really good for us to get involved in warrantying. And then also, Apple does a really good job of controlling their street price. iPads are basically available everywhere, and the price is basically the same everywhere. So it's going to be very hard for you as a dealer to make any margin on that iPad. So that's why we're talking about the bring your own device model. You know, scalability is another thing that makes Tabby fairly unique. So right out of the box, you can run up to 8 stations or 8 tablets or 8 point of sale stations simultaneously with the Tabby, all at the same time, and there's no cost difference to you or the end user to do that. The price is the exact same if you run 1 station or 8 stations. As far as serial connections goes, if you look at the back of the Tabby, you're going to notice there's only 1 serial port, but this cable right here, this Y cable right here, comes with the Tabby. Every single one that we ship has a Y cable in it, so you can split the serial port into 2 serial devices. And I want to be pretty clear here. Each end of this Y cable can run 1 device that requires 2-way communication. So for example, a data cap device, the Tabby will send information to data cap, and data cap will send information back to the Tabby. In the case of a printer, Tabby will send information to the printer, and the printer will send information back, like the printer status. Other devices such as a poll display or a scanner are a little bit different. So the scanner only needs to send data over to the Tabby, and the poll display only needs to receive information from the Tabby. So we've also developed another Y cable that you can put on the end of the other Y cable, and you could have a configuration that would look like this. And the only reason this works is because this is only using the send, and this is only using the receive. So for example, I cannot put a data cap device here and a printer here because both the data cap device and the printer require a send and a receive. So these secondary Y cables can be only used for a scanner and a poll display, or we can split the send and the receive. So, the number of serial devices that we can run is one of the largest limitations of Tabby, and you just need to be aware of that when you're meeting with your customers and you're trying to decide what the best fit for them is. As far as scanners go, you can still use a Bluetooth scanner as long as your hardware supports the Bluetooth scanner. And as far as printers go, you don't need to use serial printers. In most cases, your additional printers are going to be Ethernet printers, and there's a couple reasons that that's the way to go. Number one, it makes it a lot easier to run the cables because you're going to just run a cable, an Ethernet cable from the secondary printer to the router. You don't have to run it over to the Tabby device. And second of all, we have a limited number of serial devices, so we should not use those up for our other printers. Now, the question comes up a lot, do I have to use an LX40 for those printer number 2, 3, and 4? And the answer is no, you can use any Ethernet printer that you want to, although there's some merit to having at least one of those be an LX40, because if there's a problem with the Tabby LX40, you could always swap out the interface card onto another LX40 and be back up and running with your system. So there is some merit to that. As far as cache drawers goes, we're using the standard cache drawer port on the printer. So you can have 2 cache drawers for every printer. It's a standard cache drawer feature on every printer that it can run up to 2 cache drawers using a Y cable that Sierra sells and stocks. So in the case that you needed 3 cache drawers, you're going to have at least 2 printers because the cache drawers always plug into the printer. So we can have a maximum of 8 cache drawers. This slide is a little bit hard to understand, I know. It's internet is not required. So you do not need the internet at your store to run daily sales, to run your reports, to do all the normal things. It is not required. Now, with that said, if you do want to do some of the fancier features like automatic emailing of reports or remote access where you can log in remotely from home or from somewhere else, then you do need the internet, but you don't need it to run sales and you don't need it to run reports. Okay, so what are our advantages with using this interesting architecture? So number one, we talked about the different hardware devices that you can use. So let's just say that you want to use an Apple iPad. Your customers decided that's what they want to use. The nice thing is we are not relying on any of the tablet resources. So you do not need to use the latest and greatest iPad Air 2. All the iPads that we use here internally are actually iPad 2s, and they run just fine. You don't need the large memory version of Tabby because we're not actually loading anything onto the Tabby, and you don't need the 3G or 4G model because we are not using that device to connect to the internet. So with that said, we're not actually loading anything onto that tablet, so you don't need to have the high-powered units. As far as what I mean here when I say no installations is we're not actually installing anything on that tablet or hardware terminal either. You don't have to go to the App Store, you don't have to go to the Google Play Store and download some app and then register that app. We are literally opening up a wireless connection, and then we are typing in an IP address into a browser, and that's all we need to do. Price changes and managerial updates take place simultaneously to all devices without workflow interruption. And remote management is inherently ready. And what I mean by that is when I log on remotely, it is just like I'm standing in front of the Tabby at the store. I see all the same screens and I have all the same abilities. We are providing Tabby on a buy-sell model. We sell it once and you own it. There's not a monthly fee, which is what most of the other tablet solutions are out there. Now let's say that you do want to sell it on a monthly fee. How you sell it is completely up to you. If you have a place, a way in your business to make that take place, by all means do that if that's what you wish to do. If you would like to sell on a monthly basis and don't have any way to currently do that, you should call CRS and talk to your sales rep about the Funding 2.0 program, which is a program that we've put together that allows you to put a configuration together of all the terminals and all the cash drawers and all the peripherals that you need for a site, and it'll put it into a calculator and you can offer that solution to your end user on a monthly basis. And like I said, I'm not in sales, so I don't know all the nitty-gritty details about that feature, but I do know that lots of dealers are signing up for that and it's become very popular. So if you are interested, call your sales rep and ask about Funding 2.0. All right, so innovation, we have talked about all those things. Okay, so positioning. This is actually my favorite slide in the whole presentation. And this is what's the hardest for our resellers to understand. So, they all ask, well, what product in your lineup does Tabby replace? Or, that's the big question is where does Tabby fit in my lineup as a dealer? Where does it fit in the CRS lineup? And this is a pretty good representation. This graph is laid out features versus price. And at the very low end of the scale, we have the square, which is the lowest price and the lowest features. And we have standard ECRs above that. And then we have Tabby with the other tablet solutions above that. And then at the very top of this chart here, we have our PCPOS, which I'm sure most of the people on this call are always leading with PC point of sale as your number one thing that you want to sell to the end user. And you may drop down for various different reasons, but Tabby is not meant to replace that PCPOS. When you're going to approach Tabby just like you approach any other product in your lineup. You're going to meet with a potential end user. You're going to sit down and have some discussions with them on what exactly it is that they want to accomplish, what feature set they need, what kind of peripherals they need, what the configuration is going to look like. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look at your lineup and you're going to determine what the best fits for that end user are. And I don't know, I'm assuming that most of you are offering a couple of different options. Here's the best option and here's a good option. And, leave it up to the end user to decide from there. So, like I said, Tabby is not meant to replace a PCPOS, but there is a good home for Tabby in many, many installations. Within walking distance of our office here at CRS, there's at least a half a dozen very small restaurants that are in strip malls. They might have, between 10 and 15 tables, and they have a fairly simple menu, and they don't have a lot of peripherals, and that's a great place for Tabby. A lot of those end users are using simple cash registers today, and that's where I really say that the wheelhouse is for Tabby. Is if you look back at all the end users that you sold, let's say, ER 5200 to over the last few years, and what they really wanted more than that cash register was something that was easy to maintain later on after the dealer was out of the picture, and something that gives them much stronger and more complete reporting. All right, so Tabby versus Square. The Square is a really cool device for people that need to take an occasional credit card. So let's say that you sell an old boat that you have laying around that you haven't used, and you sell it on Craigslist and somebody comes over to pick it up. Do you really want to take a check from that person? Probably not. Are they going to have whatever, let's say you sell it for $1,200, are they going to have that kind of cash? Hard to say, maybe. But you could swipe a credit card right on the spot, and then you know you're going to get your money. So the Square is pretty cool for things like that, or for other people that have occasional businesses like maybe a garage sale or shoveling snow or babysitting or things like that. So it's pretty cool for that. Is it enough to run your business? I don't think so. I think most places want more features and functions than the Square is going to give you. Okay, let's talk about Tabby versus the ECR. So I've been in this business for close to 20 years. I am an ECR guy. Do I think that ECRs are perceived as old technology? Well, I don't necessarily think it's old technology, but I can guarantee you that the 20-something-year-old people that are opening up new businesses today look at a cash register and they think that it's old technology. I guarantee you that. For most people, it does have an unfamiliar user interface when it comes to the programming areas. And it is a single-purpose device. And what I mean by single-purpose device is, let's just say that you meet with an end user and you talk about their requirements, and maybe you ask them, okay, Mr. End User, what kind of sales do you think that you're going to do in this new business? And they say, I have no idea. We may do anywhere from $100 a day to $10,000 a day. And you talk about all the different options, and they decide they want to go on the inexpensive side, so they purchase an ECR. Okay, so let's say that you install it, train them, walk out the door, you get paid, and everybody's happy, and you don't hear from this guy for the next 6 months. Well, 6 months later, he gives you a call, and he says, hey, you know what, it was really great working with you, really happy with the business, things have really taken off a lot more than I thought they were going to be. There's a few features that I would like to add, and then you have to tell them, of course, they don't have those features with that ECR. And you guys decide that what you really want to do is put a different, more powerful system in that place. All right, so if you've already sold them a cash register, what are they going to do with that cash register? I'm sure you guys don't want to give them full credit for it. I know that our retail division from time to time will maybe trade 6 rolls of paper for an old cash register. I don't know what you guys do, but maybe they can sell it on Craigslist or eBay. Maybe they can hold on to it. Maybe once a year they have an outdoor sidewalk sale or a festival that they want to use it. Bring it home, use it in a garage sale. But really, a cash register is a cash register. That's really the only thing that can be used for. If you put it on a Tabby today and then down the road they decide they want something more powerful or different, the nice thing about the Tabby is the cash drawers are still POS cash drawers. The printers are still POS printers. Maybe you need to change out the interface cards. Pull displays are still pull displays, and scanners are still scanners. And that tablet, if you can't use it in one of the new systems that you put in, they can use it for many other things. They could keep it at the store and use it to update their Facebook page, answer emails to the store, take reservations, use it to surf the web and check email, or if it can't be used for anything at the store, they can take it home and use it at home, or give it to one of their kids to use for schoolwork. So it's a multi-purpose device. As far as the footprint goes, yeah, I know this is pretty obvious, but the cash register is big and bulky, and once you put it on the counter, that's pretty much where it sits until the day that cash register is replaced or the day they close the doors. With the Tabby, especially if you put it in a nice tablet stand, it's very easy to move anywhere. You install it on the left-hand side of the front counter, and then later on they decide, you know what, I know I said I wanted the left-hand side, but I really wanted the right-hand side. It's not a big deal to pick that thing up and move it, especially if it's in a nice stand. You can mount it to the wall, the ceiling. It's very light and easy to pick up and move around. Keyboard entry versus touch entry. I know that's a very obvious statement, but one thing that's not so obvious is the keyboard itself is always fixed. So on a cash register, some of the models have an adjustable operator display. So if you have a very tall or very short cashier, they can adjust the display to fit them. But the keyboard is never adjustable. So if you're not at optimal counter height, that keyboard may not be easy for everybody to use in the way that they would like to. All right, programming. Yeah, I played a little dirty pool and I pulled out some 4900 manuals here. But I think that most of the people on this call have been on the phone with an end user trying to walk them through something very simple like how do I change a price? And I know I'm not going to tell you the exact right sequence, but really you got to turn the key to the P mode, type in 300 subtotal 4x times 0001100 subtotal x times cash or something like that. And that's not as easy as it should be. You might be able to provide them a cheat sheet that they can use, but they don't know what they're really doing, and it's not intuitive for them to do it. And if the person that knows how to do it's not there that day, they're not going to be able to figure out. So it's just not as intuitive as it should be. With Tabby, it's very intuitive for the end users to keep track of these programs on their own after the dealer has done the installation. All right, so if you go into the database function and you go to the items, very simple. Here it says descriptor, and here is the descriptor. If I want to change this to something else, I can click on this box and boop, up pops the keyboard, and I can type in whatever I want. If I want to add a new PLU, I press the plus. If I want to delete this one, I press the X. If I want to do a group assignment, I just click on one of these buttons and it pops up a list of all the group choices. So very simple, very easy, very intuitive. As far as reports goes, once again, I've been in this business for a while. I know how to read these ECR reports. I know what all these numbers mean. Is it intuitive to an end user? Nope, I'm not going to claim it is. End users always want to add this number plus this other number and come up with some total that they think should balance to this other number. And that's really not the way that the cash register reports work. Plus, it prints on small paper. Yeah, I know this is 58 millimeter paper, and maybe you can print it on 3-inch paper, but the thing about those reports are they're not easy to do things with. You can't 3-hole punch it and put it into a binder. You can't cut and paste off of it and put it into an Excel spreadsheet or email it. And what people really want is what's here on the right-hand side. They want graphical, dashboardable, emailable reports. In addition, I'm going to say that the cash register doesn't have historical reports, and Tabby does. Tabby will store 5 years worth of sales data, and you can go back and slice and dice that any which way that you want. When I say that the cash register doesn't have historical data, what I mean is I can't go to the cash register and say, what were my sales on April 3rd, 2013? You can't do it. That data doesn't exist in that cash register once you've done the Z report. And the same thing is true of the range reports. Sure, if you do your range properly on a cash register, you could have a monthly total and a weekly total, or however you want to do your Z2, Z3s, or Z4s and Z5s in some cases. But if an end user does those reports out of sequence one day, they're not only screwed up for that month, but the following month as well. So I'm just going to say the range reporting is not possible in in the cash register. In Tabby, I can type in a range report and I can say, well, what were my sales from April 3rd to April 7th? Or what were my sales from May 13th to May 23rd? You can type in any date range that you want. You can get complete reporting based on that date range. Historical EJ, I also say the cash register doesn't have it. Sure, you can print a whole roll of paper and scan through it, or you could pull it to a PC and then maybe do some keyword searches and look for things, but all those things take a lot of time and it's not easy for an end user to do right on the spot. With Tabby, you can go into the back office, you can go into the historical EJ and you can type in a date range and a keyword and it will quickly filter down to all the transactions that meet that criteria. And at that point, you can reprint those transactions and email them very, very simply. In addition, we have a lot of space available for the electronic journal. So what this screen down here represents, this is a live screen from a site that was installed that was very busy. And after some use, they had 88,000 lines of EJ. And you can see it didn't even take up 0.25% of the total space for electronic journal. All right, so how do we do credit card with Tabby? So today we're doing the data cap integrated credit out of scope interface. And you can use any one of the data cap devices. You can use the Dialtran, IPTran, TwinTran, TranLT, any one of those. And today you have to use a PIN dad connected in the case that there's a PIN debit, or if you have to manually enter a credit card, you have to do it on the PIN pad. And you should use a MSR that's either built into the data cap device, or you can use a external MSR And in a couple slides, I'll show you another option as well. But basically, the way that we're staying out of scope is all the credit card transaction has to be done at the data cap device. So what we do on the Tabby is we go item, 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 tender. And if we choose credit card, we send a string of data over to the data cap device that includes the time, the date, the cashier number, and the amount of the sale. And we tell the data cap device, okay, data cap device, you get the card number, and then you send it off to the processor. And when we do it that way, the Tabby never actually touches the card number, which means we could never possibly store that card number, which means that there's nothing that we would lose if we were breached in some way. So that's how we stay out of scope, by never touching the card number. In today's version, you have to swipe the card at the data cap device, and we have credit, PIN, debit, gift, and EBT available all in today's current version. All right, so another alternative configuration instead of what we just saw there is maybe you don't want that data cap device right out on the counter. So you could use any one of the data cap devices, the twin tran, dial tran, tran LT. I just happen to have a picture of a tran LT here, and you can mount this underneath the counter so nobody has to see it. And this cable right here could go to this pin pad, which is a Verifone VX805 that could be sitting on your counter, customer facing. And the nice thing about this pin pad is that not only has the MAG card, the MAG stripe reader, it also has an EMV reader, so we'll be ready for that when EMV is ready. And it has contactless as well, so it could do Google Wallet or Apple Pay. And the pin pad's all built into one. So that's another alternative configuration that you could use today. All right, so summaries of strengths and weaknesses. You know, the real strengths are the intuitive operation, well-designed layout, database style graphical reporting, and you know, cloud is not required, the printer's included, and we have serial ports, which a lot of the tablet solutions out there don't have any serial ports. So it allows us to use traditional peripherals, whereas other solutions maybe can't do that. All right, so the question came up here, any way to have multiple pin pads for one data cap device? Okay, so let me go back to the slide here. So in today's version, the only thing that we could do is, let's say that we had two stations that were not very close to each other. The only thing that we could do today is, you know, we have two available serial ports. So today we could have two data cap devices that were not located near each other. That's what we could do today. We are working on, you know, and of course that does use up all of our available serial ports. We are working on something that should be available pretty soon here, which should allow us to go up to 4 EFT devices. So there's more information coming on that. More information will be coming very soon on that. So you guys will all be the first to know when the new solution's available. All right, so the retail application, this is currently the application that's in released and is available today. We've been selling it since July 2013, so there's quite a few installations out there, and hundreds of dealers have received a Tabby already. Basically, we have our stations, and you ring up sales and it prints receipts on the Tabby, and so on and so forth. We have another version that we are in beta right now. In the hospitality version, you have a table map and you can bring stations right out to the tables, and it's got store and recall and kitchen printing. That version is not released today, but if you want to get a version of it for review, you can sure get that from our tech support department and provide us any feedback. If you've studied that version and studied your customer's requirements and you feel that it is good enough to install at your customer's location, by all means let us know, and we should get that beta installation done. The only thing that's holding us back from releasing this version is we don't have enough installs at this time to have a good feeling on where we're at with development. So if you want to get that version, contact tech support and they will send you a version for review. I also will be doing weekly webinars tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. CST. We will be having a webinar on the hospitality version, so you can see what that's all about. All right, so I'm going to show you some pictures of some live demo or live installations here. This is an ice cream shop that's very close to our office. It's built right into the sidewalk here, and sometimes when you drive by this place, there will be 100 people in line. You can see it's a very small building here. There's basically 2 order windows right here. This is the view behind the order counter. So we basically put the Tabby in a nice stand and attached it right to the wall. They have a big freezer right in the middle, and there's not a lot of space on the counter here. So before we installed Tabby, the cash register was actually located right here and right here. And they were really in a bad location because not only is this counter very high, but there's a big freezer in front of it. So it's really hard for people to ring up orders and for the short cashiers to actually see what was going on. The nice thing about this nice stand is it goes fully back and forth, fully up and down. You can turn it like a steering wheel. So it's really a good stand if you want to mount it on the wall. It's from a company called Archelon. We do stock some of those just as a convenience, but you can also buy those on the open market. Here's a view of what it looks like straight on. We have the 2 cash drawers here. We have 2 iPads mounted to the wall. We have our Tabby printer and our wireless router here. There's also a third terminal that's actually a Kindle Fire, which they keep right by their phone, and they use that to take their phone orders. And this has worked out really well for them because in the past, they would just write down the phone order on a piece of paper, and they would cross their fingers and hope the person didn't say, hey, how much does that cost? Because if they did ask how much it cost, they would have to walk back to the front counter and wait for somebody to finish an order, and then quick ring up the order, give them the price, and then cancel out that order. When the person came to pick it up, they had to re-ring the whole thing. So that wasn't too cool. Nice thing about using this Kindle Fire is we can ring up the order, they can give them the price, and then they store it. When the person comes back in, they recall it, cash it out. Another installation that we did of note is at TCF Stadium. We did an installation at one of the concession stands. And I'm not going to kid you, I was a little bit worried about this installation because we didn't at this point have any installations that had so many terminals ringing at the same time. I knew it was going to be very busy. And I knew at the stadium there was going to be a lot of Wi-Fi traffic. For those of you that don't know, that TCF Stadium is where Division I Minnesota Golden Gopher football team play. And it's also where Minnesota Vikings professional NFL team is playing while they're building the new stadium. So basically we have 6 stations here, so it's kind of a bad picture, but it's a 7-inch tablet. They just have it sitting on a recipe book stand. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all running simultaneously. Very fast paced. Very small menu. They only have 14 items on their menu. And in during the 5 games of the first season, you can see right here they did over $50,000 in sales. So they're ringing up over $10,000 in sales in this 3.5-hour window during these games. In most cases, they would have actually sold a lot more stuff, but they were bringing in their food from the outside, and just about every game they were running out of food somewhere in the third quarter, which was not great on their part. Here's a picture of a graphical report that you can get. This is my favorite one right here, bottled water, $6,000 worth of bottled water. Another installation we did that's of note is we've done a couple of food trucks, and this one in particular came to us in 2013, and they are located not too far from our office as their headquarters, but they have 4 trucks, big, huge, massive trucks like this that travel all around the United States to all kinds of different state fairs and festivals. And in 2013, the state of Massachusetts passed a rule for their state fair that said, if you want to be in our state fair, you have to have a point of sale system, and you have to provide us a daily sales report. And at the end of the event, you have to give us a total sales report that includes the totals of each of the daily reports that you gave us. In the past, the Donut family had never had a point of sale system. They had manual cash drawers and just put the money in the drawer for every sale. And at the end of the day, they counted it up, and that's what their sales were. So anyway, they knew that they needed to do something because they didn't want to skip out on that event. And they had some concerns. So the first concern, if you look at this truck, it looks massive. That's me during installation day. And it looks like there's all kinds of room in there. But during a busy state fair, there may be 12 people working in the back of this truck. So there's just not a lot of counter space. So they didn't want to take up all their counter space with point of sale terminals or cash registers. Another thing too that's a concern is if you look at their menu items here, they're all wet and sticky things, so they didn't want things that could get spilled on. So they had us fabricate some ceiling mounts using the same iPad stands that we're using at the ice cream shop. We mounted several of the terminals from the ceiling, and several of the other ones we put on these heavy duty stands. we fabricated this piece of metal right here that's very heavy, so that you couldn't accidentally tip it over and knock it off the counter, but it's still light enough that you could pick it up and move it around as needed. And the third thing, going back to this picture, that was a concern is there's 7 windows. There's 1, 2, 3 on the side, 3 on the other side, and the end all open up, but they don't know exactly when they go to each event if they can actually open all 7 windows, because sometimes they're parked next to a tree or another building or another truck, or maybe there's some reason that they can't actually open all the windows. So they wanted the terminals to be movable so that they could move them to whichever windows they were actually going to be using. All right, so that is it for the PowerPoint presentation. I'll go into a live demo here now. Okay, so basically all we need to do with the Tabby is we're going to open up a browser, I think. Let's see if my PC cooperates here. All right, we're going to open up a browser, and the first thing I guess I'm going to do before that is I'm going to open up my wireless connection, and this would be the same procedure at any device, whether it be a cell phone, a tablet, or a PC. I'm going to connect to a Wi-Fi device, and on my desk here I have a Wi-Fi router that's called Tabby Troy, and I've got actually several Tabbies connected to that, but the Tabby itself does not have wireless built in, so we have to use a wireless router. So I'm going to connect to this wireless device, and then up here I'm going to open up this IP address. In this case, I'm opening up 192.168.1.182. The standard default IP address for Tabby is 192.168.1.180, but since I have several Tabbies, I had to rename them to different IP addresses. All right, so I'm going to get a 10 keypad here. I'm going to go ahead and type in my password. And when I do that, I'm going to get a screen that looks like this. And this is going to actually look a little different than the screens that probably you have seen before, because this is the latest version that we haven't quite sent out. So I apologize a little bit for that. Basically here on the left-hand side, we're going to see some function keys, but normally we wouldn't need to see these. So if you click anywhere on the header here, you're going to be able to see the item view. Avery, I agree. It would be nice if we could use keyboard input for that employee sign-on. So that is one of the things that we have requested. Okay, over here on the right-hand side, we have some action keys up here. And these action keys control what shows up on these content keys down here. So the default is going to be, that's going to show us our groups. So this program that I'm showing you is a little bit interesting because what I have is I have a sandwich and ice cream shop combined with a scanning liquor store. And I just do that because for me, it's kind of nice to have everything in one program here for my testing. So basically, if I want to see what's in the cones group, I click on cones and it shows me all the items that live in the cones group. All right. If I want to ring up one of these items, I can just choose sugar cone. It shows me always in the bottom right-hand corner what the total is, including tax. Across the top, it shows me the very last item that I registered with the price. And the same thing right here, it always shows me with the last item that I registered and then the running total. Now let's say that I actually wanted 3 of those. With that highlighted, I can always hit the plus down here and I can change that to quantity of 3. I can ring up another item, a waffle cone. And then let's say the person said, oh, you know what? I didn't know you had waffle cones. I want 2 waffle cones, but only 1 sugar cone. So with this highlighted, I can hit the plus on that one and say, okay, I want 2 waffle cones. I could highlight the sugar cone and minus 2 of those quantities off. So I can do that very easy. If they say, oh, you know what, I changed my mind again, I don't want that sugar cone at all, I can just click on the X and delete that item. All right, if I want to tender it out, I have a button right here called tender, which is an even cash tender. And if I go ahead and press that, the receipt prints and the sale's over. So a sale can literally be as easy as I choose groups. I'm going to choose my group, which is going to be drinks. I can say I want a bottled water. I can tender it out. And that's as easy as it could be. Let's say I didn't want to provide a receipt every time. I can hit the receipt button right here, and it'll pop up this guy right here. And I can just say reprint last, and it will reprint the very last receipt. All right, so sales can also be a little bit more complicated. So we do have the ability to assign condiments to these items. So if I go to cones and I choose the kids cone, I can pop up what flavor, so chocolate or vanilla at no price, or a twist for 25 cents extra. So I can ring that up and tender that out. I can go to sandwiches here, and if I ring up a sub, I can have multiple condiment tables all on the same screen. So I have my meat choice here, my cheese choice, and then my vegetable choices. So I can say I want a ham sandwich with Swiss cheese, lettuce, tomato, and mayo. So I can choose all those things. I can go back to my groups here. I can choose a bag of chips. I can go back in here and go to drinks and choose a medium drink. And if you'll notice when I did that, I programmed an auto combo. So if I ring up any sandwich and a specific bag of chips and any drink, it's automatically going to know that that's a combo and it's going to give me a 47-cent discount. So that works very similar. Like, let's just say that you go to McDonald's, and everybody knows that the #1 meal at McDonald's is a Big Mac meal. So that includes a Big Mac, fries, and a drink. And let's say that the price of that is maybe 50 cents less than the regular price of bringing up those items individually. So, let's say that people are ordering conversationally, which we all know happens all the time. So let's say I go into McDonald's with my son, and he's acting very shy, and he doesn't want to tell the cashier what he wants. So I go to the cashier and say, well, I'm going to have a Big Mac, and my son's going to have a quarter pounder, and then we'll have 2 fries and 2 drinks. And with Tabby, if you program up these auto combos, it can see that you rang up a #1 and a #4, and will just automatically give you those discounts, which is a really, really cool feature. And the other thing that it does too is, if you'll notice, that it takes that 47-cent discount and it actually applies it proportionately back to the main item. So it's basically netting the total by 36 cents of the most expensive item, 4 cents to the least expensive, and 7 cents to the next item. And it's also smart enough to know that, okay, if I void one of these items off, it takes away that combo as well. So that's a really, really cool feature that's pretty unique into the marketplace. Another feature that we have here is, okay, we all see how to ring up items by groups. If I go to my items tab here, let's go back to groups. So, the cones makes a lot of sense. Okay, there's all my cones. If I go to the sandwiches, that makes a lot of sense. There's all my sandwiches. Well, if I go down here to vodka, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You're never going to go into the screen and, scroll through and find the one that you want and assign pictures to all these. You're just not going to do that because these would be used for scanning. Those are used for scanning. So the question came up, can it be programmed to go back to the group screen after entering an item? So today we can't do that. As I ring up those items, let's see, let me ring up a single item. Now it stays on the group because it's kind of always assuming that you're going to do more. We do have the ability, after you tender out a sale, to have it go back to the items tab instead of the groups tab. And that would be used for sites that don't have a lot of items and they all kind of fit on one screen. All right, so going back to where I was saying, so most of the time in a scanning site, you're just going to scan. You don't need to go into the vodka key or so on and so forth. But let's just say that somebody brought up an item that didn't scan properly. What I can do is, from the items tab, if I click on this magnifying glass here, it pops up a keyboard and I can start typing in the descriptor. So in this program, there's about 3,100 items. So let's say I'm looking for Captain Morgan 1.75. As I type in C, it will filter this list to all PLUs that have a C somewhere in the descriptor. And as I type in C, it's for a CA, a CAP, a CAPT. So it narrows it down. I can see, okay, here's the Captain Morgan I want right here. So if I ring up that item, here it is, the Captain Morgan 1.75. Let's say they had 3 of them, so I can ring up the third one, and I can have it pop on a mix and match discount. So that's a pretty neat feature. Another feature that I have that's kind of cool here, let's see if it's going to work for me here. So if I'm in the group screen and someone says, hey, well, how much are these ice cream cones? And you don't want the cashier to have to turn around and look at the board, I can choose this button right here and it'll toggle back and forth between icons and prices. So I can show the price of all these items on here. And I can do that same thing on this items tab, and I can scroll through and see all the different things. So that's kind of a nice feature that you can do it right on the screen. Another thing that we have, besides the auto discounts, the auto combos, we have other discounts as well, besides mix and match and auto combos. If you want to get to the function keys, we have lots of different function keys. I'm not going to talk about those because those are pretty straightforward. I can program different tender keys here and pop up a 10 keypad. If I didn't want to do that, I could program some quick tenders. So I could have the $1 bill. Everybody has a $2 bill key on their cash register, right? Anyway, these are all programmable. You can make these whatever you want. And we can put our different tender types right up here. So I could say whatever the total is, $85. I can say they gave me $90 cash and tender out that sale. Another thing I was going to show you that's pretty unique here. So I bring up the sandwich, ham, Swiss, lettuce, tomato, mayo, and then I'm going to go back to groups and go to drinks. And then the person says, oh, you know what? I said I wanted ham sandwich, but I actually wanted turkey. I didn't know you had turkey. So it's real simple. I can go to the order screen here, and I can just double click anywhere by that item, and it brings my condiment table back up. So I can change that, take off the ham and put on the turkey. And you can do that anytime before you cash it out. The other thing that we've added here, which is pretty nice, is we have a small client database. So we can program up to 1,000 customers into our database. And if they don't already exist in here, I can actually add one right on the fly. So I'll add myself. So you can do first name, last name. I can put in the address. I'll put in my email address, telephone number. Put in some different stuff like that. It's got some fields on here that we don't use today, but I'll go ahead and save that and say I'm done. Okay, so I have this customer here, so I can assign this customer to the sale. All right, so this is the very beginning of what we want to do with this feature, but today, if I assign this person to the sale, I can do a couple things. Number one, I can go back into reporting and I can see how much money this person spent as long as I assign them to the sale. So that part's pretty cool. I have some reports that show exactly what these people are buying. Down the road, we have ideas for some much more cool things. Number one, we want to be able to assign a discount if we assign a person to a sale. So that'll be coming down the road. We also have the idea that we'll be able to run charges for these people. So they could buy things every day of the month, and at the end of the month, you could run a report, show how much they owe, and they could pay that off. That's coming down the road. And we have the idea to maybe email out receipts and things to these people too. So that's coming down the road. But today, it's kind of nice that we can put them there, assign them to the sale, and we can get some nice reporting that shows how much they purchased. Another thing that we've added is the original version of the retail Tabby did not have any ability to do any store and recall. So we've added that in the latest version here. So if I click on this tables tab down here, I have up to 50 locations that I can sign a check. So I can choose C1. So when that's highlighted, I click on store, and that ticket is now stored away. It's syncing the database here because I added that customer into the customer database. All right, so let's just say I store that away. The person forgot their wallet. They ran out to the car, and we want to ring a couple more sales because the line's long. So this person bought a water. This person bought a slushie. This other person bought a slushie. And the person said, okay, I'm back. I've got my wallet. So I can click on that button again. I can highlight that cell, recall that order, and at this point, I can now pay that off. So that's basically what I want to show you in the front end. A lot of the features are a little bit unique, and there's a lot of features that are pretty standard. Where things get a little bit more exciting is, well, not a little bit, a lot more exciting is when we get to the back office. So when you're doing your demos, you should get to the back office as soon as possible. So the easiest way to get to the back office is to go to the cashier button and click on Launch Back Office. I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and I'm actually just going to open up a separate tab, which you can certainly do. I like to have multiple tabs open, especially when I'm showing things, and I'm actually going to make that full screen right now. We also get out sign-on tab here, and people will not be able to log in back here unless they have the authority to do so. I wanted to point out that the one nice thing here is when we log in, we get some information about this, what's going on into our store right now. So right here I see, okay, I have one operator working right now. They've got 14 receipts for a total of $121. I've got some alerts on the screen here. So it says, hey, one or more items are out of stock. And if I want to know what those items are, I can click on this alert. It will bring me right into that report. It's going to show me these items are all in stock, which that list is huge because I have a scanning liquor store in this database and I never entered any stock. A couple other things that are kind of cool are, I'm going to split the screen here. I'm going to show you something. So that's one thing right there to notice. Did you notice here that the screen automatically changed based on the size? So if I've got a big display here, this is what my screen's going to look like. Let's say that I have a 7-inch tablet. It's going to look something more like this. Maybe I held that the other way, might look something like this. If you tried to look at it on an iPhone or something, it's going to be like this, probably too small. But you'll see here that Tabby automatically adjusts to the size of the display. So that's kind of nice. You don't have to program these screens yourself. It automatically just does it for you. All right, so one of the things that we have here is called this operator view. So as I'm ringing up sales over here, well, let's go in here. Okay, so we got our operator view. It says that this person's been shifted in for 49 hours. Apparently I forgot to log them out yesterday. But anyway, it shows that they've got $121 in sales. And if I click on this person, it gives me more of a breakdown of what's going on, how many refunds, discounts, markups, so on and so forth. And what's really cool is a manager or owner can log into the screen and they can view this. And in real time, it's going to keep this updated. So over here, if I ring up a sale, you'll see right now it's $121.81. And I'll ring up several items here. And as soon as I tender that out, you'll notice that without hitting refresh on the browser or anything, it automatically will refresh this up to $131. So that'll just keep a rolling total of what's happening at your store all the time. All right, so I'll show you how easy it is to add a new PLU. So if I go to databases here, and I'm in the items database and say I want to add a new item, I'm going to click on the plus. And the new item that I'm going to add is called the Mega Cone. All right, so I added the Mega Cone. I'm going to leave the barcode to the default because I'm not going to be scanning. I click on the group assignment button. It pops up a list of all my available groups. And I'm going to say this is a cone item. I am going to go to page 2 and I'm going to add a price of whatever, a $9.99 for a Mega Cone. That's all I really need to do. I can put an image on this cone, and these images here, you have 10 pages of images that you can use. You can load custom images, and so it's a very simple utility that CRS has on our website that allows you to take images from anywhere. You can right-click on any image you find on the internet and download it. You put all the images that you want to use in a folder, you open up the utility, you point at that folder, and it's going to create one of these pages for you that happens to be the right size. It will take all those pictures and shrink them down to the proper size without stretching or skewing them, and it'll put them onto this nice little grid for you, and you can use another utility to upload that to the Tabby. Super, super easy to use. All right, so now I've created my new item, and I'm just going to leave this PLU. I'm just going to click on the previous PLU. And you'll notice over here it's going to synchronize this database. And it's going to do that on all the stations as soon as they finish the current sale that they're in. It'll automatically download all the changes immediately. And what you'll notice here now, you notice I didn't do any screen layout programming or anything like that. Just by assigning that item to the cones group, it's automatically going to show up in the cones group. So now when I hit cones, there's my Mega Cone right here, and I can already ring it up and I can already sell it. So it's that simple to add a new item. All right, I'm not going to go through too much more of this programming stuff. You guys can see that or look at it in the manual. It's pretty standard. We got groups and departments, which are taxable status. We've got our tax rates. And the only thing I'll point out here is we have tax tables, add-on and VAT tax. We got promotions and different things like that. So that's all pretty standard stuff. We go into our daily reports. Okay, this isn't too exciting, but here's my simple X report, which shows me how many sales I've done today, what the total was, how much tax we collected, what's in the drawer. Where things get exciting, though, is when we go to the long-term report. So I'm going to go to the group report, and I'm just going to click on refresh right here. The question came up, can we auto-alphabetize when new items are added? We do have a flag that does allow us to alphabetize all the groups and the items, yes. All right, so here's my group statistics here. Pretty simple, pretty easy. This is for today. And you'll say, well, what if I wanted to see the quantities also? So if I go to report type and I say, what do I want to print? I'm going to choose sold quantities and revenue. And then just like that, it shows all of those things.
And this is the daily report. Well, what if I want to see the weekly report? So I just click on weekly and I click on refresh. And it'll show me the weekly report and it's going to break it down by daily. So it's going to show me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then a summary at the bottom. If I want to look at monthly, I could choose monthly and I have it broken down by week. So it's going to show me here's my monthly sales. Here's week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and here's the total. Well, let's say we think, well, this report's a little bit busy. I only want to look at sandwiches. So I can click on filter. I can say I only want to look at selected groups. I only want to look at sandwiches. And it will do that. So here's week 1, week 2, and a total. That's for May. Well, let's say I want to go back and see what happened in February. I can click on that and click on refresh. Oh, I guess nothing happened in February. Not a lot of sales been registered on this Tabby here. It's on my desk, but anyway, very simple, very easy to switch it to a different month or a different year to do that. And this works for all of these reports, for the operator report, payment stat, that client report that I was telling you about. It says that Shinsky bought $7.65 worth of stuff. And on all these reports too, I can type in a range as well. So if I go to range reports, I can say, well, what were my sales on April 18th, 2015 through, let's say, May 17th. I click on refresh and it gives me all those totals. So very simple, very easy. These are printable, emailable, print and emailable, or you can send it to CSV. So that's a pretty cool feature. There's also another level of coolness. If I go to the statistics, I have a dashboard here that can show me what's going on in my store. So this is what's going on today, hour by hour. This is what's going on this week, day by day. This is what's going on this month, day by day. And if I hover over these, it will tell me what the totals are for these different days. And there's detail charts that live underneath this that are also pretty cool. So if I go back to my group report here, okay, here's my group report for the week, or I can click on the month, just like we can on the other report that I showed you. I click on a range, and I can click this to be something else. So very quick, very simple, very easy to do this. I'll switch this back to May. So, and what's more so, if I click on the more information button right here, I can actually see this more in an Excel style. And what's more, I can actually even export that out to CSV. So we'll see if Excel wants to cooperate today and come up in a timely fashion. So that's really cool that you can click on CSV, you can grab these sales data here, and you can cut paste this and put it to another application. So speaking of CSV files in Excel, I'll go back to the item file here. So I go to database and items. I can do that as the same here. So if I go into the more information area here, I can export this PLU file out to CSV. And you saw how quick and easy that was. So here's my PLU file right here. So if I wanted to, you could actually give this PLU file to your end user and say, okay, Mr. End User, you told me that you hate my PLU descriptors. So here's a file for you. You retype in the descriptors any way that you want them to, or let's say you're going to make a huge price change, you could go in here and change all these prices on here. And even what's more so, I will tell you that as I've been creating some of our beta site programs here, it's a lot easier for me to create the PLU file in Excel because I'm pretty good with Excel and I can do a lot of cut paste. So I want these couple PLUs. I can go down to the end here. And I can add some more items down here, based on the cut and paste that I just did. So there's a lot of things that you can do that make your life a little bit easier. You can program your whole PLU file right into here, and that will save you quite a bit of time. You can go back in here, and I have the import routine, so I click on import, I can choose my file, it'll go ahead and find it, and it'll even tell me up here whether there's mistakes or problems with it, so you can go back and fix them. And that importing and exporting is available for all of these database items. So not only for the items and the groups and the departments and the operators, all of those things can be done through Excel. Since we're back here, I'll go ahead and go into that journal management. I talked a little bit about that journal management area. Yeah. And I click right here and see what there is to see. Maybe. All right, so So basically, I can type in a date range here, and I'm going to filter for the keyword Troy. If you remember, maybe not Troy. Maybe not that. Okay, so there we go. So you can type in a keyword and a date range, and you remember I assigned myself to that one sale. And it will tell you how many results there are, and you can see there's only one result there. So let's say that I actually want to look at cone in that same date range. It shows me here there's 4 results, so I can scroll through those and reprint them. You know, I could reprint these, I could email them, so you can see that's pretty simple and pretty easy to use. So in a nutshell, that's what I want to show you today. I just want to pop onto our website here and show you a couple other resources that are available. So if you log into the dealer area, and you go to the Tabby tab, there's a lot of good information here that you can get. So one of the things you can take a look at is this price book. And basically this price book we put together, it's anything that we resell that maybe you're going to use with the Tabby, all in one nice little place. So you can go in here and it's going to show you about the Android terminal. It's going to show you the different configuration options, the iPad stand that Sam4S makes, and the Archelon one that I showed you from the ice cream shop. LMs, all the different cash drawers that we have available, cash drawer bracket scanners, you know, anything that we resell that you could use with Tabby is in this book. So that's kind of nice. Another thing that we have available is if you can follow what we've done here today, but you can't quite figure out exactly how everything plugs in together, we have this configuration diagram sheet. And what we've done is we've taken some diagrams from installations that dealers have asked about. And we've drawn a little picture up here and we've shown you exactly what you need to purchase from CRS and exactly how everything plugs in together. So, I don't know, PDF's not cooperating. All right, so for example, this one right here, you know, it shows a couple stations, integrated credit, lots of cash drawer. So it shows exactly how everything plugs in. So that's a nice thing to have. Got some success stories here. So, these are stories of dealers that have done installations. They've gone out and taken some pictures and gotten some quotes from these end users. So you can use these if people want to see some success stories. Those are nice. And this presentation that I've just shown you right now, that PowerPoint is right here if you want to download that. We've got manuals are available here if you want to take a peek at those. This training manual is pretty cool. What we did with this training manual is we basically think that you're taking a Tabby right out of the box that's completely RAM cleared, and an iPad out of the box that's not connected to anything. And it will show you, it'll walk you right through creating groups and creating PLUs. And at the end of the day, you'll have a nice little program that's got just a few items in it. You can ring up some sales and you can run some reports and things like that. So that's kind of what I want to show you that we have available here on our website. If you have simple questions, you can always talk to your sales rep. The sales reps have been going around the country with Tabbies under their arms for more than a year now. If you want a little more complicated questions, go ahead and talk to our tech support department. The tech support guys have been, they all have Tabby on their desk for probably the last year and a half, and they are answering questions every day on that. If you're really stuck and you want to, you can always contact myself. If you leave me a message and I know that your question is something that I know somebody else can answer, I am going to forward that to somebody else to take care of. So don't be offended by that. So currently the question just came up. Is there any interface for text insertion? We don't have that yet today. That is on the development list as well, but we don't have an interface for that today. Okay, so at this point, that's all I wanted to cover. For anybody that you know wants to go ahead and take off, I understand. Pretty much the quitting time is right now. I'm going to stay on the line and answer questions as long as you guys keep asking them. I do want to remind everybody that we do have Tabbies in stock, so if you'd like to get one, go ahead and call your sales rep and order that today. So at this point, it's an open forum for questions and answers. Go for it. So there is a maximum on remote printers. The maximum number of printers that we can have in our Tabby system is 4. 4 total, and that includes the Tabby printer itself. So yeah, this is the maximum number of printers we can have in our entire Tabby system. So the question is, can I network multiple Tabbies? So you cannot do that today. Currently today, you know, all those reports that I showed you live in the Tabby. So if I had 4 stations connected to the Tabby, so let's say that I had a system that looked like this with 8 tablets all talking to one Tabby. This station right here is going to hold all the reporting for that. Well, let's say I needed multiple Tabbies that were not going to be near each other. Today, I do not have a way to combine the sales totals from 2 different Tabbies. That's coming down the road, but I don't have it today. I know that PC Poll said that if there was some demand, that they would write a routine to gather the data from the Tabby and put it into their database so that you could do multi-store consolidation. Absolutely, there's a way to access reports remotely. So let's see here, where do I have that? So basically, you know, most of the time at your store, they're going to have an internet connection for some reason. You know, Tabby does not require it to run. You do not need the internet to run Tabby. But let's just say that you wanted to have remote access available. So at the store, they're going to have whatever their DSL or cable modem here. And if you program that up with port forwarding, you can port forward over to the Tabby. And then by typing in the WAN IP address and forwarding over to the Tabby, you can remotely access anything. You can do programming, you can do reporting, you can bring sales if you really wanted to. So can the port be changed, meaning not use port 80? All right, so I think that today I don't have the ability to do that. Let's see. So today we're only using port 80. There is a outstanding feature request to make that port programmable down the road. So, but today you do have to use 80. So today, DataCap is the only credit card interface. We do have a couple other things that are in the works, but too early to talk about that. But today, yes, DataCap is the only credit card interface. The question was, is it compatible with Kitchen Video? And the answer is yes. Micro Plus, you know, when you pop that thing on and go into the configuration, I think it has like 40 or 50 different systems that you could program in there that you're talking to. And one of those choices is a kitchen printer emulator. So what you can do is you can take the M-Pad and you can connect it just like you would connect it to a kitchen printer by serial port. And it will take any data that would normally print on a printer and it will show it up on the kitchen video display. Well, Toby asked the question, well, what products do I see that are easy to compete against? And it all really depends on what your end user wants. I mean, I've showed you what we have. We don't have some things. We don't have a time clock, and we don't have you know, some other features that people want. But if the features that we have are good enough, we compete well on a couple of different topics. Number one, we're not selling this system on a monthly fee. So that's a big sticking point for some people and some of the other tablet systems, because not only do you have to pay some money up front to pay for the hardware, but then after that you're paying a monthly fee forever as long as you use it. So, you know, and the monthly fee is anywhere from, I've seen $39 a month up to, you know, a couple $100 a month every month forever. So that's a huge key feature for us. And the other one is we're not cloud-based. You know, I know that we're running as a web server and a web client, but internet's not required. Our data is stored locally on that Tabby, and that's a huge thing because a lot of the places that are cloud-based, if your internet goes down, your whole system's down. And what's more, your data is up on the cloud, but you don't actually own it. So if whatever, you quit paying or you have some fight with your POS company, they can just shut your data off and it's gone forever. So I guess I look at it more of, you know, you got to sit down with your customer and figure out what they're looking for and just fit your best solution towards it. Okay, so we do have a simple question came up. What do we have for stock? So we don't have a countdown on the screen, but we do have the ability to do stock entry. And what I can do is I can set up a comma separated value spreadsheet and just import what I purchased from there, or I can do it manually. So I can search for, you know, I can search for the different items. So I can say whatever kids cones, here's the item I'm going to be adding. We'll say that I purchased whatever, I purchased 100 cones and I paid, let's say whatever, I paid $5 for those. So it shows right here I have $5 each, yeah. So it shows the value is $500. I can add another item, you know, pretty simple stuff here. 0.75 cents, pretty simple. And then when I'm done, I can say done, and it actually will add that to the stock. And where that comes into play is during these, we got some reports here, some inventory reports that can show us the things that are short on inventory. On the PLU itself, we have the ability to program in a minimum stock. So we have the warning stock amount here. So that's what we have for that. So in this version, we have 4 different price levels, and on the front end side, we do have the ability to switch that price level right here, which switches the prices. We don't really have a way to do that on a timer in this version. It's a manual process. All right, any other questions here before I log off? Oh, thank you, Jason. I appreciate you sitting in. All right, well, I want to thank everybody for your time. And once again, I want to remind everybody that we do have Tabbies in stock and available to ship. So call your sales rep today. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you soon.